Welcome to the One Player Podcast, the show on solitaire board games. I'm Albert, and this is episode 373.
Albert, what does a farmer think about when they're milking cows?
Oh, utter nonsense.
Yay!
I got one. Hey, Julius, I love your
Hello,
farm
Albert.
jokes. A simple man like me can understand simple farm jokes. That was great.
There you go. Pulled straight out of Laffy Taffies.
Oh, Laffy Taffy.
So, Albert, we are talking about farming today.
Yep, that's right. We're talking about a game I'm not familiar with, but seems fun. Harvest.
It is a fun game. I will say, I'm a little shocked that a designer or a publishing company would call a game Harvest when there are like 6 or something or even more games called Harvest, and probably even more than 6, like a dozen games called Harvest, instead of calling it like Furrow Field or any of the other names like that are referenced in the book.
Yeah, so that really confused me because the rule book does not say Harvest on the cover. It says Furrow Field, right?
Right.
What?
Because part of the idea, I have the deluxe version of the game. And so the deluxe version of the game very much presents itself suggesting that this is they very much deluxify it. So they have a lot of really nice things. But when you open up the box, there's a deed for the land, and there's an introduction letter from the mayor welcoming you to Furrow Field. And so the idea being that you're not getting a game, you're essentially buying a portion of the town, and now it's up to you to go farm. The rules continue in that, and we'll get to it, but it's neat. I don't know why they didn't make the game a better name, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is confusing too, because like I said, I opened the rule book and I downloaded it, and it's, wait a minute, this doesn't say, is this the right game? Let me look, doesn't even look quite the same. So yeah, it's a bit confusing, but okay. By Gairy Oxenfree, so it's not even the real designer, is it? That's the solo bot, which we'll get to later.
The mayor, actually.
The mayor, okay. Also the mayor.
And we'll get to that when we get to solo. So, but right now, let's go ahead and jump on in.
Okay, so what's the game about? Farming, right?
The game is about farming. Yes, it is. It is your classic farming game with anthropomorphic animals. So the animals are farming farms, and that's the entirety of the theme.
Okay, that works.
I couldn't even tell you if it's necessarily thematic, because it's thematic in ways that some like younger type games are, where you drop a drop of water on it and it goes and just pops up into fully grown form. So
okay. I mean, it's a farming game, enough said.
Yeah, it's like Animal Crossing version of farming.
Okay, neat. Okay, so there we go. Theme: Animal Crossing farming. Which Animal Crossing is a farming game already, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I haven't played it. Okay. Okay, so that was our theme, our components then. There's a lot of neat components in this, I bet.
Yes, there are a lot of neat components. I'm going to try and talk about both the deluxe components and the regular components at the same time. And I'll see if I can manage that.
That won't be confusing. Oh, and this is made by Keymaster Games. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Which make Parks and Space Parks and other games.
Yes, I think they know how to do cool, pretty things.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, having that context helps me know what to expect now in terms of components.
You know how nice the stuff is supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. Which going on a tangent here. I saw that they're coming out with another edition of Parks. Looks very different. Looks nice, but it looks very different. I think they changed all the park artwork in the game.
Very cool.
Which is surprising too. But okay, sorry. Tangent.
Yeah, we'll discuss that another time, because I actually have. If we were ever review that, I have thoughts about that. But we're not reviewing that today. Now then, Harvest. A fair number of the components are already quite deluxe, even the standard edition. So each player has a player board, a farm board, and it's already it's inset, so you'll be able to plant your crops inside inside the border of the farm. It's not individually inset, but there's a big open area for the farm, so theoretically it didn't really need to be, but it is. It's nice. That also has on your farm board a spot where you store poop, which is just a tracker for it, and the poop has a slot to be able to hold that so you can't bump your poop. And it also has a spot to store your water drops and your max water drops, which is the bucket token. And that shows how much water you have and how much you can hold at any point in time. You have an unlimited number of slots for poop, but a limited number of slots for water. That is your personal player board. In addition, everyone will have on their personal player board all of the different resources that you can put on it. So you can put different types of crops. There's blueberries and blueberry bushes, and there's strawberries, and there's pumpkins, and there's wheat. And that's the full list of the different crops. In the regular version of the game, those are all chipboard polyomino tiles. In the deluxe version of them, they're all full wood meeples that are used essentially like the polyomino tiles to be able to fit onto the slots in your player board. There are also buildings that you'll be able to buy. These are all just regular squares. They fill one square of the board. It's like wheat would fill 2 squares. These buildings fill only one of them. And once you buy them and build them, you'll put them on your board. The back of each of those building tiles is a forest. At the start of the game, you'll fill most of your farm with forest tiles, the back of those buildings, and your job will be to clear them over the course of the game. In addition, everyone has character cards. Those character cards are going to be used to give you a special player power. And there are sunrise tiles, I think is what they're called. But essentially, there's a draft for the turn order and special powers that you get each round. When you're playing them solo with multiplayer, so solo, he'll just grab the specific one farthest to the left, whichever fits into his. In multiplayer, it's a regular standard draft to be able to grab those. They have the player who goes earlier gets something less powerful, the goes later gets something more powerful than the sunrise tiles. So that's a nice balancing factor that they have. The last set of components, the last set of components that you're going to have on your player board is going to be, well, actually, there are no more on your player board. What am I talking about? The last set of player components that is going to be stuff that you get are coins. There's 2 denominations of coins in the regular game. They are chipboard, and the full version of the game, they are metal coins. In the deluxe version, they are full metal coins. Now, there is the central board. The central board is a worker placement where you're going out collecting things, whether it be different produces, different seeds, being able to take actions, being able to take buildings, things like that. Everyone has some wheelbarrows that they use to be able to fill your worker placement spots. You'll put the wheelbarrow wherever it is that you're going and go on with that. There are little buttons. There's a score track on the main board that you use buttons to be able to show where you're going on that track, how much points you have. And there are a set of central market tiles that will add some additional randomness to what is available on the action spaces. Those are randomized each game, and you have some random ones that makes it be a little bit different each game about what's available on offer. The last thing is a die that is used. Some of the actions let you roll a die for a little bit of an extra resource that you can't really predict. You'll roll that die. It's a custom engraved die. When you're playing solo or 2-player, there's a set of tiles associated with Gairy, the dairy cow. It's spelled Gairy because he's a dairy cow. Gairy, the dairy cow, who is the mayor of Furrowfield. So there's tiles that randomize where he goes, very similar to an automata, where he's blocking off stuff, taking worker placement spots, so that you have a challenge to be able to grab your stuff before he can grab it, because he's very good at grabbing stuff that you may want. I believe that covers all of the components.
It's a fair bit of components, yeah.
Yeah, it is. All in all, especially with the deluxe version, I think the game is very pretty. Even with the standard version of the game is very pretty. When you buy the deluxe, for some reason, they also gave you all the chipboard tiles and a lovely insert to be able to store all the chipboard tiles, which is entirely useless. And I'm probably going to pitch it once I get the expansion.
Ah,
But you have lovely space to be able to store all those things. Everything looks very pretty. The art, especially if you're a fan of that cute anthropomorphic animal type theme, all the art looks very nice. Everything is very dynamic and pretty. It's very clear and easy to be able to tell what the different icons, the different things are, with one exception that they're fixing in an errata pack, just to be able to show when sometimes you have to pay money and sometimes you don't. They forgot that on a couple of the build icons. But in general, all the icons are very clear on what it is that you can do.
okay. Yeah, I like the art that you're talking about. The characters are all cute. It almost kind of reminds me of Root, but not quite really. They're more human like.
That's just because it's anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah. Well, and not just that, but the color style and the art style in general, I think, is sort of Rootish, but more realistic than in Root. They're more cutesy, I think.
Bright and
But they're
vibrant.
they're yeah, I guess, yeah, yeah. But I do like these animals. I like the Mick the badger in his jacket and tie and all that funny looking thing.
I hear. I hear. So, shall we move on to the rules?
Yep, let's do that.
So, just be very brief with the rules. I think the rules are perfectly clear. They do some things that I feel should be standard, but not everyone does, which is first outline the general version of it and then go action by action, explain what each of the actions are. The only thing that I perhaps would have done differently when I'm explaining the game is I say, here's how you get points. You have to go through essentially, this is the flow of getting points. You must harvest to get points. And they perhaps don't explain that well. That's a very basic strategy for the game that doesn't really pull through. It would have been nice if Mayor Gairy would have explained that to you at one point, but you picked
Hmm.
that up very quick.
Okay, so it's not a very complicated game then. I take it.
I
It
wouldn't
being
say so.
yeah. Would you say it's more complicated or less complicated than say Parks,
Um,
or just different
Probably a little
complicated?
more complicated than Parks
Okay.
because there's a lot more strategic planning that you have to do.
Okay. So if you're familiar with Parks and you know the publisher and you like the game, this is just a bit of a step up in complexity. Okay.
Yeah, ish.
Ish, yeah.
So, having said that, perhaps we'll talk about how the game is played and then my thoughts on the gameplay.
Okay.
So, in general, this is basically an action selection type game. In order to be able to score points, what you're going to do is you first will have to go get the seeds. Everyone will usually start off with a couple, but you'll go get the seeds by going and buying them from the marketplace. The next thing you'll need to do is you'll need to then plant, then grow or tend them, and then harvest them. Planting them requires, well, all three of those actions require going to one of the three central spaces, the field spaces. And each time you go to the field spaces, depending on how which one you grab, you can have either one, two, or three of those actions. When you take an action, you can do it to as many plants as you want. So, like if you're planting and you've got a pile of seeds, you can plant all of them, assuming you have the resources to pay for it. Planting requires spending poop. When you plant, you put the wheat, the strawberries, the blueberry bushes, and the pumpkins out in your field, however it is that you want to organize it for it, spending the poop to be able to do it. Then theoretically, you'll go back and you'll tend it. Tending is optional to score points, but tending lets you make all of your plants grow. That costs water to do that. And there's a chart for both how much poop and how much water is required. It's so funny to continue saying poop, but
Mm-hmm.
because it's
It
technically
is.
it's fertilizer, but poop. It's like a little poop meeple.
Yeah, it looks like a little poop. I mean, it is what it is, and I think they call it poop in the rule, right?
No, they call it fertilizer in the rules,
Oh,
but
do
I'm
they?
an immature child, so I'm going to continue calling it poop.
I thought I saw the word poop somewhere, and that made me giggle at one point. Okay,
So
works
there's a
for me.
handy little chart that tells you how much of each of those resources you need to be able to do things. But when you tend, for the most part, it just sort of doubles what it is that you have. So when you tend, a strawberry grows more strawberries, a pumpkin grows more pumpkins. Blueberry bushes are the exceptions because each blueberry bush takes water to grow a blueberry. A blueberry bush by itself cannot be harvested, it's a permanent thing.
Hmm.
But you don't need to tend. You can theoretically just plant and immediately harvest. Plants grow very fast. Then the other action you can
Nice.
do is you can harvest. When you harvest, you have to harvest the entire field. You cannot just harvest some of it to make room for tending or something like that. You must harvest your entire field. When you harvest your entire field, that is the way you get points. It's going to be your primary way of getting points. If you're not harvesting, you're not getting points. Each of the different types of things will get points. So, like for instance, pumpkins can get 6 points. Each strawberry only gets 1. Each wheat only gets 1. So they each get different amount of points, and the blueberries get 4, since I said all 3 of them. But each one of them gets different amount of points, so you want to sort of vary it as much as you want. You are encouraged to diversify some because you get extra coins for having diversity. Each unique type of crop you harvest will give you some additional coins. What then do you need coins for? Well, coins primarily are going to be used for some of the actions require coins to pay for. So, like if you're going to the one that does all 3, it commonly costs some coins. The central marketplace tiles, the farmer's market, give you sort of a mix of the different things. If you're going to buy seeds, you can just buy some seeds at whatever the rate is. If you're going to the marketplace tile, though, today it might be available one of each of the seeds for $4. And that's cheaper than you would normally have to pay for it, but that is only available to one person. It's only available today. So grab it if you want it. Similarly, there can be a mix of different actions that you can take, different types of things. The other thing coins are useful for is if you go to the workshop. If you go to the workshop, one of the primary things you'll want to do there is clear land. I discussed that you start with a bunch of forest tiles. You'll spend $2 to clear land, remove that that forest tile, turn into a building in offer for everyone, and you get to roll a die as a bonus for that. Alternatively, you can buy one of those buildings that anyone's put out on board or that just start on the board. If you buy those buildings, it's similar to the river, where the most recently revealed ones cost more, the older ones cost less. But you buy a building, it goes in your field, and it fills up a spot.
Do you know which buildings you have when you're
No,
clearing your field?
you do not.
Okay.
So you are theoretically not the first person to have access to ones you reveal either.
Okay.
You could though, because you could. It depends on how you tie it. You could clear land and then immediately build the building. You have to sequence it correctly to be able to have access to it. But theoretically, if you don't sequence it to make that a priority, it'll go to someone else. The last thing you use money for is to upgrade your bucket. Your buckets are limited for how much they can hold. When you upgrade your bucket gets bigger to be able to hold more water, which can let you tend even more things all at once. The game is only 4 rounds long, so there's not a lot of time to buy stuff and harvest stuff. You must constantly be harvesting. I tell this to some of the players I play with. If you're not thinking, how am I going to get points? And you're more just thinking, oh, I have a cool farm and I'm building up my farm so that I can, try and be, efficient with a tend action or things like that. You want to be more efficient with your actions, that your actions are working towards harvesting and getting points, and not that you can just have the coolest and biggest tend or the clearest farm or something like that. You really have to make it an objective to move towards harvesting.
That's funny. Sometimes I'll play games and I'm just enjoying so much the process of building things that I end up losing just like that terribly because I wasn't playing to win. I was just playing to make things nice and big and grow my machine and whatnot. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's satisfying to do that. It
Yeah.
doesn't win you anything.
There are other games, a nice tableau builder or one of those where you're building up your whole machine, you're building up a lot of stuff. Those are games that reward you being able to do that. This is not one that does. This is a game that is designed, it's relatively shorter. It's only 4 rounds. So you're only going to have 12 actions over the course of the entire game. Now, in action, you can tend all of your stuff at once, but you only have 12 actions over the whole course of the game. It's not a lot of time. Having said that, it doesn't feel stressful in that. I don't feel like I'm running out of time and that I'm concerned, because theoretically, like, planted fields get you points at the end of it. Seeds that are left behind can get you a couple extra points. So stuff is not going to waste. It doesn't feel
Mm.
like I'm worrying about it. It doesn't feel like, oh my God, I can't, I'll never get everything done. This just matter you have to sort of realign your focus to be able to do well on it.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, yeah. Another comment about it is, well, actually, let me before I get to that comment, I realize I didn't tell you how you play with Gary, Gary the Dairy Mary.
Yeah. Well,
They are
he's used for the solo game though. He's not
He is
used for the
used for
normal game,
both
right?
1 and 2 player
Okay.
games. When you're playing with 2 player, he's going to simulate 1 player. When you have just solo, he's going to simulate 2 players, which is humorous. But when he is what he has is he has a set of tiles, whether it's 6 or 3, depending upon the player count. He will reveal those tiles and fill up spots. So a tile may say, hey, he's going to take the best general store, or the best field, or the worst field, which is the cheapest field. So he's going to be just randomly going around town and filling up spots and blocking you from being able to take those spots. His only goal is to block things. He is the mayor. He doesn't care nearly as much about points. Your job is to care about points to be able to do that, but he just blocks things around. There are some other games where I will sometimes forget to do his thing. He does not fill up a lot of spot. He is not very complicated to be able to run. It's literally just flip over tile and move the thing around.
Okay.
Um, One thing that I do kind of wish though is that the game, the one that I have, has deluxe meeples for each of the characters. Um, when you're playing 2 player, you need to have an extra set of wheelbarrows for Gary to be able to move him around, and it doesn't have an extra set for him to be able to do that. So also, it is what it is.
So you got to use it like another player's.
Or just use the wheelbarrows, which is what it's really designed to
Oh,
do.
okay. Hmm.
So it is what it is. He has wheelbarrows just for him. But yeah, he's filling up spots. He's blocking things off. He's making things harder. He is not an opponent that you have to beat, which is just fine with me. I always enjoy going ahead and doing my own thing with that, and it's not something I tend to mess up.
Okay.
I do very much enjoy the harvesting process. A game that sort of narrows your focus a little bit more is I'd say almost delightful break from some of the other ones that are way big, where there's a lot of different actions you can take, and there's every single thing under the sun that you can do. And many other games offer that wealth of options. This one focuses you on a very narrow thing. You have 4 rounds to harvest as much as you can, as often as you can. And that narrowing of focus is enjoyable to me. I like the narrower focus that this game presents. It still provides a lot of decision making, especially because you want to use the farmers market area as well. The discount that they offer is handy. You
Hmm.
want to not lock yourself too much into a single idea, because Gary can just mess up your day on that. So you have to be flexible. You have to be intelligent with how it is that you're doing things. Um, but being able to have a clear idea and a clear strategy, and be able to just move along and focus on that harvest, is very enjoyable to me. It's ideal exactly, and I don't know how to compare the weight scale of it, because again, there's still a lot of decisions. There's a lot of things you can do, especially because each of those buildings gives extra player power, gives extra powers. The different player powers gives different player powers. So there's a lot of differentiation. There's a lot of uniqueness to each play, but really, it highlights so much harvest. The game is humorously, I commented, harvest is such a broad name for it, but the game focuses on you have to harvest. That is the whole
It's
game,
exactly what
is
it's about. Okay.
harvest. That's really exactly what it is.
So it's a little bit too broad, but it's also exactly perfect.
Yeah. It'd be nice if not everyone else also called their games Harvest. But yes, it is all about the harvest, and it keeps you focusing on it.
That's neat. Can you harvest more than once in a turn in one of
Yeah,
those 4 rounds? Okay.
absolutely. And I have on many times what is particularly enjoyable to do, because you'll often want to do that sort of 3 per where you plant, tend, and harvest.
Hmm.
Sometimes in one round, you'll start with harvesting last round stuff and then be
Right.
able to do another quick plant, tend, and harvest real quick in that round.
Gotcha. Nice. Okay. That's pretty cool. And there aren't too many different actions, so you're gonna get to do everything every game. You're not gonna say, "Oh, this game I never tried this." Just like you said, it's not a big complicated 100 action
I mean,
choices
there are
game.
different strategies that you can take, whether you're going for additional farms or if you're trying to maximize some of the extra resources or try and get some of the building, like some of the buildings, for instance, want you to max out your buckets. So you'll want to get your really big tens in that case because you have a max bucket, which means that it's really easy to get water. So you want to use that well. Some of the other ones want you to be flexible. Some of the other ones want you to be fully filled up. Some of the other ones want you to just narrow your focus down. There's been a comment from the designers that he said there's a lot of strategies. He's enjoyed trying them, with the exception of the purely wheat strategy, which he thinks just does not work. I've never tried the pure wheat strategy, but I thought it was humorous, his comments about not being able to do that particular strategy. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can do with it.
Well, that's cool. Okay. And each character is different. I kind of missed that if you talked about that, where
Yes.
they each have different powers and whatnot. So
Yes.
depending on who you get, you're gonna have a different strategy.
Each character is different. Each of the buildings are different. And the farmer tiles coming, the marketplace tiles coming out add differentiation to the game as well.
Okay. That's cool. It sounds like a nice, simple game. Like you said, fun and simple, and it works well, and it's easy to solo.
I mean, I don't know that I would say simple, because it's not a matter of the simplicity of it, because again, it's there's a complexity about being able to organize your board well and being able to organize your actions well, because it's so tight. That adds to the weight level of it. I wouldn't say it's simple, it's that it's narrow.
No, okay.
It requires a focus on the actions that you're taking to be able to do it well.
And how long does a game last? It's only 4 rounds, but is it also pretty quick, like half an hour, an hour?
It's
What do you
like
think?
40 minutes per player, so when you're
Okay.
playing solo, it's just 40 minutes.
Okay. So it could get pretty long.
If you're playing a full 4-player game, it takes a little bit longer. Um, Everyone has to decide where they're going or what is it they're blocking. When you're playing with 2
Right.
players, so Gary just goes to random place and your other player goes to places and then you do your stuff. So yeah, the game takes longer with more players, but a solo player, it's pretty fast.
Right. And it sounds like Gary's turn time is pretty trivial also. It's
Oh, it
not.
takes seconds.
Yeah. Okay, that's nice. I like that. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. And great looking components. That's one of my favorite parts about games like this.
Indeed. Yes, it is a beautiful game. I've already backed for the expansion for it because I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's very enjoyable. I
Ah, and there's
enjoy
an
I
expansion
enjoy
coming
playing
out.
the game. There is
What's
an
the
expansion,
expansion add?
fall harvest, so you can make pumpkin pies and things.
Oh, nice. Okay. Very cool. I look forward to hear more about that one too then. Once it's ready to reap it.
We'll once it's ready to reap it. Yeah, we'll have to come back to that at one point in time.
All right. Cool. Thank you, Julius.
Alrighty, Albert. Have a good evening, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. We love feedback, so we love hearing from you. You can reach me at julius@oneplayerpodcast.com or JLBird on BGG, and Albert can be reached at albert@oneplayerpodcast.com or Fractalune on BGG. Our website is oneplayerpodcast.com with the number 1, and we're also on Twitter at oneplayerpodcast. The intro music is copyright Angus, can be found at jamendo.com. The transition music is copyright by Dan El Duce Pancaldi, whose page is at donpancaldi.com. The One Player Podcast is protected under a Creative Commons share-alike license. Thanks for listening.